Hey gang, happy E-Day. Whether it's, I have Tuesday, November the 4th up. If you're doing your homework or your math work on Monday evening, then fantastic. Happy early E-Day. Either way, I hope that you're having a great day. Today we are going to take a look at adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. So yesterday we had, if both numbers on the bottom look the same, easy peasy. Today we're going to have to find a common denominator, or our LCD, like we did in Chapter 4, so that we can add and subtract. So this is Lesson 5-3 from our book, Fractions with Unlike Denominators. We'll go over our notes, and then we will have some practice problems. So you should have seen on Canvas that you needed to have page 72 open in your guided notes. So if you are not open to page 72 right now, then you need to hit pause on your video to be sure that you've opened that up. If you just realized that you left your practice workbook at home, you can get on Canvas and look on the E-Day module for today, and you can print off your own version of notes, or you can replicate these on a piece of paper. So if you are ready to go, let's get going. If you're not ready, hit pause and get the materials that you need. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is visually look at what does it mean when I'm adding with unlike denominators. So the first thing we're going to do is, this is the problem. We're finding 1/3 plus 1/2. So what our model is telling us, this right here is modeling 1/3, and this right here is modeling 1/2. So where 1/3 is shaded in, we want to know when I have 1/3 of something and 1/2 of something, what is my total going to be? So we are trying to figure out how much space is taken up right here. So I want to know how much room is taken up right here, because that's where we have represented 1/3 of something and 1/2 of something. So we can visually see that we're going to use this fraction model for 1/3, and we're going to use this fraction model for 1/2, as I've already explained. We need to find equal sections that represent this big mess up here. So I'm going to find equal sections by breaking this into 6. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. How did we get 6? Well, 6 is our LCD. So our LCD between 3 and 2 is 6. We know that from last chapter. So how much room is taken up with our shaded area? Well, 5 are shaded out of a total of 6. So this is how we can visually understand what's happening when we're adding unlike denominators. Let's do the same thing with a common denominator. And this is how we're going to solve our problems on a regular basis. So I'm going to change 1/3 into something out of 6. Because we know the least common denominator is 6. So, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put a 6 there. Our common denominator is 6. So how do I get from 3 to 6? I multiply by 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. Whatever I do on the bottom, I must do on the top. So 1 times 2 is 2. If you also remember from Chapter 4, we can call 1/3. Think about the vocabulary word that we can use to represent 1/3 and 2/6. If I say that 1/3 is equal to 2/6, what do we call these two numbers? Think about it. And if you said equivalent fractions, fantastic. So we're finding equivalent fractions so we can add. So 1/3 we change into 2/6. 1/2 we're going to change into, how did I get from 2 to 6? We multiplied by 3. Whatever I do on the bottom, I must do on the top. So 1 times 3, I multiply by 3, Whatever I do on the bottom, I must do on the top. 1 times 3 is 3. So when we have the same denominator like we learned yesterday, our denominator can now stay on the bottom. It's unchanged. And we add our top numbers. So 2 plus 3 is 5. So once we find our equivalent fraction over here, this problem looks exactly like yesterday. Easy peasy, we're ready to add. So 5/6 is the same answer that we visually got over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6. All right, you are going to do the quick check problem in your book. However, please make note and change the problem in your book. You're going to find the answer to 5/7 plus 3/5. So on quick check number 1, you're going to do 5/7 plus 3/5. You can hit pause right now on your video, and then I will come back on with the final answer. So please hit pause, do this problem, and we'll be back with the right answer. All right, let's see how we did. Remember, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make equivalent fractions. So our least common denominator between 7 and 5 is 35. So how did we get from 7 to 35? We multiplied by 5. I'll write that in. So if we multiply by 5 on the top or on the bottom, we must do that on the top as well. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 7 is 35. So 7 times 3 is 21. I add these two numbers together. I have if you remember from last chapter, what do we call when our top number is bigger than our bottom number? This is an improper fraction. So in simplest form, we always make an improper fraction into a mixed number. So in simplest form, my answer to 5/7 plus 3/5 is going to be 1 and 11/35. Final answer. All right, now let's look to see what Nadia is doing. Nadia is making a new pillow. That sounds fun. I need to do that for my new house. Nadia uses 7/10 of a yard of blue material and 1/6 of a yard of white material to make a pillow. We need to know how much total fabric is she going to use. So we need to add 7/10 and 1/6 is our goal here. So let's find the least common denominator between 10 and 6. The least common denominator between 10 and 6 is going to be 30. So I'm going to change my denominators into something out of 30. 10 times 3 is 30, so I need to do 7 times 3. 6 times 5 is 30, so I need to do 1 times 5. Now I'm going to add my numerators. 21 plus 5 is 26. And I know that these are not in simplest form because I know I can at least divide by 2. And that actually is the greatest common factor. So 26 divided by 2 is 13. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So she needs 13/15 of a yard of material. I hope Nadia has fun sewing her pillow. All right, we can also subtract unlike fractions. So Laura skates 1/4 of a mile. If she skates 1/4 of a mile more, she'll have skated 9/10 of a mile. So we want to know how far has she skated so far. So we are going to subtract 1/4 from 9/10. Because in the end, she skated 9/10 of a mile. So again, first step that we're going to do, 10 and 4, those aren't the same denominator. I need to find my LCD. My LCD between 10 and 4 is going to be 20. So I'm going to write my fractions out of 20. So I'm comparing the same thing. So how do I get from 10 to 20? Multiply by 2. Whatever I do on the bottom, I must do on the top. So 9/10 is equivalent to 18/20. I multiply by 5 to get to 20. So I multiply the top and the bottom by 5. Now I am subtracting my numerators. So 18 minus 5 is 13. Denominator stays the same. So she has skated 13/20 of a mile. If you need to pause the video to write any additional numbers down, please feel free to do so at any point in time. Alright, so we're just going to do 2 quick check problems here real fast. Quick check number 2 and quick check number 3. Please note, I would also like for you on question number 2, it wants to know what fraction of an hour did you exercise on Monday and Tuesday. I would also like you to tell me, so I would like for you to tell me the fraction, and I would also like for you to tell me how many minutes did you exercise. So you are going to hit pause to do these 2 quick check problems, and I'll be back with the answers. Alright, let's take a look at how long you exercised on Monday, combined on Monday and Tuesday. 1/2 of an hour on Monday and 1/3 of an hour on Tuesday. So that's common denominator would be 6. So 3/6 plus 2/6 is equal to 5/6. So you worked out for 5/6 of an hour, which in minutes, this is just a little bonus question for you. In minutes, we know there's 60 minutes in an hour, so I want to change 5/6 to be out of 60. So that's an easy equivalent fraction. I multiply by 10. So you worked out for 50 minutes between Monday and Tuesday. I must say I'm very jealous of that person because I have not been able to work out in a few weeks. So I hope that you have been able to get out and be physically active today as well. On our second problem, we have 2/3 of a yard of felt, and we've used 1/2 of a yard. How much do we have left? That means we're going to need to subtract. So when we do our subtraction problem, we have 2/3 minus 1/2. We find our common denominators. We have 1/6 of a yard of felt left. Alright, these are our quick check problems. And again, this is lesson 5.3, adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. Our practice problems for the day are going to be on page 293 in your practice workbook. You're going to do numbers 1 through 13 and number 20. Again, if you have lost or misplaced, forgot to bring home your practice workbook for E-Day, then you can go onto Canvas and find a PDF file of it, print it off, and do it from home. That is it for today's lesson. I hope you have a fantastic E-Day.